This is day 1323 of Arukh HaShulchan, and I learned today should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael, including Batzar Vashivya, and the soldiers Hamindam Mishmar Tzei Nevrei Elokeinu. Today we're doing Yeridea Siman Reish Aleph. See if Asam Ches Tayin Dalet. Okay, we're still here at Table and Kalim. Shari Kalas of Kama Sin Mem Klishanik Beshulav. If you have a vessel which has a hole in its bottom, I feel called shuvim, it's very small. It's no longer a vessel to pass on a mikvah. But here he says we need a hole the size of moti zayis in order for it not to pass on a mikvah. But it's not comparable. There's even ma'ilin psul mikvah l'shov bahem la mikvah. That's what the psul of ma'im shuvim of drawn water. Because bar b'siv pays. We're going to be clarifying much later on. It's about traveling in the keli. So in traveling in the keli, that's a different ball game than that it should not make ma'im shuvim. And that's from the Rabbi Frankel. The name of the first Moshe. The first Eichiluk, he writes, there's no difference in between the two topics. He writes, we learn you're allowed to make a large barrel of wood, of wood. You can make any size hole at the bottom. In this barrel. Of Yera, Shemi Achzur Yarei, he's afraid. Shemi Achzur Mikvah Klisha Shoipo, he wants to draw up water from the mikvah and is afraid the water is going to fall back, and now it's going to be Mayim Shuvim. Chulei Yinkovak Li B'Shov, he should pierce a hole in the bottom. They're both okay. He was martyr by both, but he was mechoshish lahachmir by both as well. If it's a kli is punctured, no matter how small, ain't no chashuv kli. It's not considered a kli of sos mikvah. You shouldn't bring water to the mikvah in a keli which is punctured in that manner. In drink water is machmir if it's a puncture is a koshu. Koshkein does v'otochen, so you need to be toivel inside it. Shetams a kosav kanatur. Shemitams a kosav kanatur. Because first I know we have to have a whole size first I know in order to dispel any issue. Much kosav b'sipa koidim. We came another chalek b'zeh. Okay, so why are we mechalek? If you're going to be machmir by both, may meko by both, why be mechalek which one or the other? In bracket says, "I'm based on Sheikh become a Sorosh, but become also Sheikh Milamase, Moshkas of Abach, man lies is Machmer." So that's the number 2, the Rive Shechil possess. So we find the Rive makes such a chil. The Mashkas of Rambam, the Menokvo Kli Nekev Amataro. If you pierce a Kli with a hole which makes a tor, but so Mikri made a mikvah, raise a kosher, the Mikvah's kosher, because we're arriving on this. Rive writes, Avram, the Davars, Eino Mechuv like Bil Tocho. It's not clear at all that you can tell them inside it. The water which comes out of this keli, which has a neck which makes it tor, and that don't pass on the mikvah. But the toivel inside the keli, you have to have the water in the keli mixed together with the water in the mikvah with the shvoferes hanod size of a hole. So it makes it toiveling in the vessel. Shemei hakeli lives to some mikvah that the water in the keli will not pass the mikvah. By the time the early, what's the reason? Says Arukh HaShulchan. True. To negate the name of a keli, you have a whole lesson in the size for first anode. You came with halacha psukim because before, but since the halacha in the Mishnayos, the Shas, the Gemara, the Arab shnei mikvos, to mix two mikvos together, shechashu ke'echad, that they should be considered one mikvah, but you need a whole of that diameter. Alma the shir zeh makum liseh. We see this is a shir which was accepted from as a Masorah from Har Sinai. So therefore, if you put a keli in the mikvah, or in the spring, Mitzadei Kli Adayin Yesh Mikveh Mayim, and the sides of the Kli there's still a mikveh in the Mayim. For Chel Mash Mikveh Achas here, and you need to say it's one mikveh. Hamayim Sheba Keli, the water in the Keli, Shel Mikveh Chutzlah, and one mikveh outside. V'Vav Chibur Mayim L'Mayim, and the connection of water to water. V'Chol Chibur Mayim L'Mayim, but you know Kishveres Anot. Whenever it's a connection of water to water, you need to have a Shveres Anot. Zeh Shlich Karayim L'Shon HaTorah Ad Shiu Mayim Shebetochom Mu'Ravim Imei HaMikveh, until the water inside it is mixed with the waters of the mikveh. Come, let's get right, as we said. V'zeh ain't svor l'mad the emes nech shven the keli mikveh b'nei atzma. Yesh var b'ayim, so, which I would have thought actually, but you can't say that the keli itself is a mikveh as long as it had 40 sides, right? De'ech tach shven b'nei atzma. How can you consider it unto itself? Lo t'omer sheniv t'lo mitoras kli. It's no longer a keli. So if that's the case, kemen shekain harikula mikveh achas. This keli here, what you see, it's imaginary. It's not there, halachically. So if it's one mikveh. But you have to have a whole size shveres anot. Mashiach shamayim over there keli a mikveh, but when water passes over a keli to a mikveh, ain't it tzarich rak shlo yashem kli aleh. There, you don't need it to be mechubar to another mikveh, to the mikveh surrounding it. Just need it not to have a shem keli, so it should make mayim shuvim. That's why the whole size which makes a Torah is enough, even though it may be smaller than shveres anot. I don't know. Mashkas Rabbi Sinai Lachoim Das Rambam Kosh Kosam Masif Ayin Samach Zayin. Lefias Daiti Harbei Temo. Whenever he wrote about what he said in the Rambam, he says it's astonishing. Dechav Shalomar the Mashkas Rambam B'Tei Toroso Ave Kamotzi Zayis. How can you see that B'Tei Toroso is the size which from which an olive can fall out? B'Chavis Nam Perkim, the killing we learn by a jug. The shear of big egos. The shear is the size of a nut. Chen Kos the Rambam Perkim that's Mikalim. But Ego's golem is eyes, and Ego's nut is greater than his eyes. Yontif says that. It's also difficult to me, even more so. By wooden vessel, the shear is the size of pomegranates. For Rimon who pomegranate is much larger than the shveres anot. For Amastoma, because of Chavis Reva. It sounds like it does make a difference. A jug or bowl, whether it's wood or pottery. In brackets, it says, "You would think motzi rimon is not necessarily because shveres anot should be enough, but even a rimon is not necessarily sufficient. Much because around Perek Vav, a keli which began with a hole the size of motzi rimon. It's mekabel tuma until most of it is ripped up. Ein Aleph. I think the Rambam holds the opposite. More than anybody else. You couldn't cuss when you have a trough in the stone. These are shveres anot. The mishum the klei avonim ein mekabel tuma ein bo shear acher, because since klei avonim were not mekabel tuma, so there's no other shear which you can go by. Only the shear shveres anot. And then he writes, okay, make a hole in it which is metared, the bekelim low side is sure the shveres anot. In the case of kabbalah, the size of shveres anot is not sufficient. Ella in Cain the shear, Ella in Cain the shear at nekem shalem havatos hakeli mituma. Unless the case the size that shear is vatel there tuma avi pachos shveres anot. It's less shveres anot, so then that's okay. But there are other kelim. The shear shalem uyoser shveres anot. The shear is the shear which takes the tumor of them is greater than shveres anot. Chein tzorich nekev amataro. That's when you nekev, which is metaret in those cases. The little sagir of shveres anot, and so shveres anot is not enough. But he says you can never do less than shveres anot, even if it's metaret and less. That's the Rambam shita, not the Shiva until now, saying that he's describing that to the Rambam. I feel even for pouring from it into a mikveh, it's not enough to have an ekem kosher. It's not enough to have an ekem taro that's less than shveres anot. You have the minimum shveres anot. The bekach onu mekubalim the God of Kohen Sinai. This is the halacha Moshe Sinai. The kol nekev should be yonei mikveh. Any hole which has to do with the mikveh, lo pachas shveres, no, can't be less than shveres. A note. The bracket says, right, beganke dad Rambam machmir, Yosef comes more machmir. Agma esteh achrish beisyosef abach, bataz ashach lo tov sukem b'daitoi. They don't hold the Rambam holds that way. I think I'm right. Says Arukh HaShulchan, Viduk. I'm based. Because of Rambam Sham, the Rambam writes there, Bedin, you take a large vessel and you puncture it, a hole which would make a tar, you cover barrets, and then you embed it in the ground. And then also, mikvah made, mikvah is a kosher. Because of Od, Zoshan also writes, if you closed up that hole with plaster or some structure. The Arukh HaShulchan explains that the brackets come from a seed with swirls, with plaster, and with pebbles. Chinkas have a rush, so paired out. Ain't no place, it's not possible. One inside this is a kosher mikvah. Sasma beseed or gifsis. In other words, use plaster, but use gifsis, which is a superior kind of seed, of plaster. A diner post of some mikvah, still pass mikvah, or even until you bend in the ground, or build a new one. You a seed. You put it on top of the ground, on top of the plaster, and you pasted it to the ground with cement from the sides. I raise the kosher. It's kosher. It seems this is what he means. If you seal the opening, it's not to do with making the kosher for the mikvah. The miyak kosher. It even has a nekev, which makes it tar, or which makes it tar. It's kosher. This is clear from the Torah writes here. If you made a hole in the bottom, it's permitted. You don't need to fix it any other more than that. About a vessel which got a hole in the bottom, and a person mikvah doesn't pass on the mikvah. That's what he writes. If you mix together plaster and pebbles and closed up the hole, lo chashiv stima. It's not going to be closed. That should now considered Torah's Keli. Evidently, it's an inferior stima, and that doesn't make it Torah's Keli again. Im Irev seed the gafsis. So then he's much stronger. But it starts more, and he goes up. Chashib sima is called considered to be sealed. Akal shana. The commercial of the only mikvah. Ideja starts to have nekev. So he says quite clearly that the mikvah does not become possible just because he closed the hole. Besidu tzoros oshio v'chulei. Is he closed? Or if he put it, etc. Not as required to fix the hechsher of the mikvah. You're allowed to make the barrel. You should make a hole of some dimensions underneath it. You're allowed to put it on the ground. Not another mikvah. Not like Arukh HaShulchan was telling us before, but it's in the mikvah. You can introduce water into it. So in yeshiva, Arukh HaShulchan points out, in yeshiva it's no gave a hechsher. The fact that it's sitting on the ground has nothing to do with the hechsher. The kenu echrev, but it has to be that way. Since you put in the mikvah in order to toivel in it, so mimela, the mimamid all arts. Even though it's connected to the mikvah, it's also on the ground. The Yevshar B'Ofen Acher Kamban, obviously it's not possible in any other way. So it's just a practical thing that's in the ground. Ein Gimel. Ufiza Gam Divrei Rambam Misparshim Kain. According to this, Rambam can be also explained like this. This is what he says. If you sealed up the hole with seed, with plaster, with vinyan and pebbles, in a place of chulei, lo shogel hechsher. It doesn't have to do with the hechsher of the mikvah, but rather it has to do with Um, well, let's see again. If you sealed up the hole, the seed of binyan, with plaster and with pebbles, ain't no place so no longer apostles. So that makes make a kosher, it doesn't apostle it. The low should get extra. So they're astonished. They wrote to make the water in the barrel kosher for the toiling. Tartabin knew two things. First, they should have a hole which would make a tar. You have to bend the ground or some way manifest that it's a structure. So every time she puck over the vineyard, that's why he says, if you poke it with the seed and you stop it up with plaster and with bubbles, it's not considered to be a keli, and therefore it's a valid mikveh. The Tema Rabbah is astonishing. No lay, no king. How does he know this? Vote for the Wadim Ki Berusha. It's like he's saying, "Ma Loshem Chen Shchas Rambam." Why did Rambam use Loshem Chen? Kachel, I should have said this. Nikman Nekam Matarov has a hole which would make it tor. Raise a kosher. Im Pakak. If you seal it off on Nekam Besid Rabbinya. In other words, the kashrus. I'm not sure I like this. Arukh HaShulchan is so glad to me, but the kashrus in the mikveh, it is kosher already. But you have to stop up the hole for a different reason. That the water shouldn't go out. It's just a logical thing, not for halachic reasons. So the that would be Rambam says Nikman Negam raise a kosher in Pakak Hanega Besid of Binyan because of the chain. It's a separate thing altogether. It's only so we assume that it's going to close the hole, that the water should go out. He's teaching us how to close the hole. The chain before, but the sefta should put the rash for Rosh Yosef. I believe Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, "Tiktiv itiktiv Ramam Sif Zayin Ayin Sham Tzarech Iyun Gadol." So the going back to the Beis Yosef. He says, "Lachshui ma'ashu chavis tarti beinan, chayish yenekev nemitar, botzei shikba aretz yeshebo alchachol shudav shel binyan." There, but the pakol b'seed is part of the binyan. It's necessary always to be there. It says the Arukh HaShulchan. I don't think so. I think it said pakol b'seed is just in order that the water shouldn't spill out. But I can't argue with him. As Arukh HaShulchan, it has to be mechubel karka. I doubt. If there's close with a seed of a gapsis, you close it with plaster or with what's this again? I think it's gypsum in English, or whatever. Who I think Mishnayim Yachad Nasakli with both of them together, it becomes a kli. So that's on the seed of a gapsis. That's until you bend the ground or you build it. This is what it means. Or mix the cover boards. The part has to be buried in the ground. Even if it's on the ground, even that's involved kabinyan. Building around it. Near the answer, she had been the building doesn't have the entire height of the vessel. I guess it's Marsain issue. Near the Kvura Ba'aretz or Binyan Sviva Mahani Gamil Nikva Cloud. Now, even there's no hole at all, it's still kosher. As long as it's embedded. They ain't there's them over the rock with nikva of slasmam. Steve Gapsis, you can't say it only works where there's a hole and then you stopped it up. You can't say this. Steve Gapsis, it doesn't make it better, makes it worse. Makes it clear again. Vikalo nikva as if it doesn't have a hole. But there's for no sentence king, besides logic dictates this. The kosher kibber karka, anytime you're connected to the ground, have a karka, it's like the ground, but cloak keli, not like a vessel. Even with pipes made out of metal, connecting them to the ground works. The kosh can be cleared something which will work with wooden vessels. But another reason it can be machshir. If you carved it out and then embedded it, it's possible that she'll have shem kli b'tolush. It's possible because that the name of a kli when it's separate from the ground. So how here is it going to be kosher just because you buried in the ground? Or something made a building around it? Or is it chokos of kavo? It's like make carving and then embedding. So I have to say, even though the plaster and gypsum make a keli again, it's not a complete keli, like one which has never been punctured. It's not like a full kli. That's why burying it and building it works. But if it's a kli shalim vada ain't a moil, it doesn't work even if it's in the ground. That's primary law. But it has a hole near a push of the karka. The hole doesn't make a difference. The hole makes it ois keli once it's the karka. One which is complete keli has to be covered with sof chakako. But one which has a hole, even if it's kavo and then it gets a hole, that's good enough. It's no different than making a hole when it's separate from the ground. You can also close the hole afterwards. It's just like a plugger, whatever it's called, a plug. And several poskim agreed with this. We have some Mishnah by Yaakov which brought down Piskei Tshuva. Okay, so bottom line is, it only works if there's a hole. Might be able to just close up the hole. But Mechubel Karka doesn't work. That's not enough in and of itself. Okay, that's it for today. It is? Yeah.